Hello, BookTube. We are continuing on with my library tour for 2025 of my little book room, my Sanctum Sanctorum. So, not the rest of Hyde Cottage, not all the other books, but just this little room. I look at these books the most, I prowl around them the most. They are the closest to me. And this library tour is going on now not only by popular demand, but by executive command. This is someone who I didn't even know knew that BookTube existed, much less watch my channel, has summarily commanded me to continue with this library tour. Under the rather melancholy reasoning that he doesn't think he'll ever get to see this room on his own again, which is very premature, but I do as I'm bid. So, I am now sitting, thankfully. I'm not sitting on the floor, I'm sitting on the chair. So we are going to do the next shelf. Ordinarily, I would start with the transverse books, but there are no transverse books on this shelf, so we will start just with the books themselves. And here we have these old orange spine penguin trade paperbacks. This is the vintage Wodehouse. That great 1920s cover there, which has, I think, one novel and a bunch of short stories in here. Oh, no, it's just a bunch of short stories. And also a little bit of an unsavory thing at the end of this book are transcripts of the talks that P.G. Wodehouse gave over German radio when he was a prisoner of the Germans. I have my issues with those. I've always had my issues with that incident in Wodehouse's life, in that incident in his biography. I think he did too, but it's weird in the Wodehouse biography world. It's just sort of viewed as bad taste to dwell on it. I guess because after that incident where he was making broadcasts on German radio to an English-speaking audience, he emigrated to the United States and stayed there for 190 years as a beloved figure. So I guess you don't want to talk about something that certainly looks to me like collaboration with the Nazis, with collaboration with fascists, which in 2025 I want to point out is bad. It is evil. It is wicked to collaborate with fascists. But we continue on here with these orange spine penguin classics because I have Life with Jeeves, which is another one of these floppy things. This has a bunch of novels, I believe. The Inimitable Jeeves, Very Good Jeeves, and Righto Jeeves are all in here. The Jeeves books aren't very long, so I've got 3 in one volume. I really, really love Wodehouse. Don't mistake that last comment that I made. I really, really love his writings. All right. We're just going to continue on here. We have yet another orange spine penguin trade. This is Life at Blandings. This is his other great creation, aside from Jeeves and Worcester, is Blandings Castle. So this has Something Fresh, Summer Lightning, and Heavy Weather. And then there's yet a 4th book. So these are all 4 together. This is Imperial Blandings, an omnibus. And there is the star of the show on the cover. And this has Full Moon, Pigs Have Wings, and Service with a Smile. So that's a lot of Wodehouse all in one place. This is not all the Wodehouse in this room. There's a lot of other Wodehouse in this room. But here I've got just this library of these orange spine trade paperbacks. And I believe there are more. I believe there are others in this same setup that I don't have, that I've just never seen. Okay, then more Penguin. We have the, technically Penguin, the Pelican Riverside Shakespeare. I do not have a black spine penguin classic, big, fat, floppy collected Shakespeare. I don't have that because that doesn't exist. But I do have some individual plays. There's a ton of Shakespeare in this room. Oh my God, you'll be sick of the face of him by the time we're done, getting all the way around this little room. There's a ton of Shakespeare here. But this is the Pelican Shakespeare of Henry VIII, which I really like. This is a weird Shakespeare play, and it has a long stretch in it that isn't going to make any kind of intuitive sense to a 21st century viewer. There's a long stretch of this play that is just a pageant. It would have been great. It would have gone over really well with the groundlings. but in our day, there's almost no way. You don't usually see Henry VIII staged, but if you did, there's almost no way to make that work, that whole section of the play, to make it work. And as you can understand why this would be tricky for William Shakespeare to write. He was writing this play in the direct shadow of the man in question, in the reign of his daughter. So you have to be. It's tricky, delicate stepping, because Elizabeth was Henry's daughter, yes, and was also a Tudor, and there's a dynasty, and there's, I guess, a familial collection, but Henry also beheaded Elizabeth's mother, so you don't really know where you are. You don't know how far you can go in condemning or praising. I still love the thing. I think it has some absolutely gorgeous long passages in it. What's this next one? Oh, great. Okay, one of you sent me this. That'll also be a theme throughout this room. There's quite a bit of stuff that's made into the little book room that was sent to me by viewers. This is Sleep No More, 6 Murderous Tales by P.D. James. One of you, a couple of years ago, sent me a P.D. James care package par excellence. Just a ton of UK hardcovers of P.D. James's novels, quite a few of them. Plus this thing, a collection of short stories. So I don't know why this isn't with those others, but it doesn't matter to me. I go back to P.D. James quite a bit. A murder mystery author whose murder mysteries really are revisitable, I've found, and an extra element of melancholy when it comes to P.D. James, or really any author. If you, as a professional writers or freelancers are always grubbing for work, they'll do anything that's got a paycheck that won't bounce. And I have certainly been guilty of that. And it's always a melancholy thing when you really love an author and you yourself are the one who wrote their obituary. That's not a writing assignment that you want at all, but you'll take it for $150. Then we have a hardcover of Hiroshima by John Hersey. And we have his indelible cast of characters. He chooses to follow a cast of characters through the catastrophic bombing with an atomic bomb of a city full of people. Rather than report on it in a more clinical way, he chooses to do that. It was famously a whole issue of the New Yorker, and despite its brevity, this is just a tiny little thing, but this is a towering work to come out of the Second World War, fit to stand next to any of the other much bigger works that came out of that war. It's incredibly moving. Even now, it's been taught in schools. It's been reprinted a million times. It made his career, but it's even so not hackneyed at all. It's incredibly moving. All right. Well, I guess you're moving too, in a different direction. Maybe this is by Bruce Grether. This was, I assume, extremely independently published, and this is Moon Tusk, Book 1, Rendezvous in a Ruined City. This is a story of extremely steamy, extremely leather bar type power differential gay sex between men on a distant planet that features telepathic mastodons. Hence the cover. I can't 100% say that this book makes any sense to me, even now after all this time. When did this come out? I don't know if Moon Tusk is still in print. I have no idea. This came out in 2011, and I've done this. I've shown you this for good or ill. I've shown you this on library tours before, and I could swear that at times some of you have said that this did have sequels, and that they are available. I wouldn't mind rereading this and then reading the sequels if there are any, but it had to be in here. Moon Tusk, it had to be in here. It had to be in this room. Okay, then we have one of these Vintage Departures series. Vintage did a series of paperback travel-related books that were very, very good. The editorial team on Vintage Departures was very good. And this is by Verlyn Klinkenborg. This is Making Hay, where the author returns to the American Midwest, to Iowa and parts south and east, to soak up the atmosphere, meet the people, talk about that world, which was until just weeks ago, the breadbasket of the world. The American Midwest grows a phenomenal amount of food. But not only now are there no workers to harvest the food, but there are also laws in place in the United States against helping anyone anywhere else in the world. Our official position as a country is that if you are brown, you should starve to death. So it would be a completely different American Midwest than the one that is commemorated in this book. But the one that is commemorated in this book is the one that I knew very well, the one that I knew and loved. So I got this in Vermont, I believe. Yeah, I got this in Vermont at one of an antique mart, where it's a couple of floors of just separate lots. Every person owns a lot. They bring their stuff. It's vetted and cleaned and put on sale, and they get a commission from what the place sells. And every once in a while, when you're wandering all around there, I wandered all around those aisles with my little Bean, who is sound asleep. As you can see, she is comfortably resting on her bed. Every once in a while, you would come across book stalls, people that were selling books. You never got much of a bargain. Certainly, I that was not the only time that I recognized how thoroughly spoiled I had been by the Brattle Bookshop. But still, it was neat to find it there, because I hadn't had it since I hadn't read this since the 80s. Yeah, 1986. So travel writing and Iowa travel writing had to come in here. There's one piece of travel writing for Iowa itself, not just, this is a few American Midwest states. There's one piece of travel writing for Iowa itself I would love to find. Have not found it ever out in the wild, but it'll come in this room if I do. Okay, then we have Paulina Drown. This is her book on Mrs. Bell. This is what I always refer to as a Steve book. Certainly it is a Brattle Bookshop Steve book. This is the type of thing that will show up at the Brattle, and 100 people, 200 people will look at it and not even know that they're looking at anything. They won't know that they're looking at anything interesting because they don't know any of the people involved. They don't know any of the history involved. Mrs. Bell was a Boston feature. She was a Boston fixture. She went to the library every day, often brought a barrow so that she could wheel books back home. The particular library that she was a patron of, I am also a patron of it, and it forever and ever had a service, it still does, where you can call them up and get them to drop off a book for you if you're nearby, and most of the people who use this library are nearby. And this book is just a collection of anecdotes about Mrs. Bell, the daughter of Mr. Choate, of Choate School. And in all the way through her life, she was unconventional, unapologetic. She deserves a biography, but I think this is probably the closest you could ever come. I bet there are no tranches of primary documents anymore. I bet they don't exist. Okay, then we have another little book. This is William and His Friends. This is a keepsake book from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. This is the William in question is a 4,000-year-old lapis lazuli hippo. A beautiful little thing. This thing was made in the 1920s, so you can't tell. But that little hippo, if you ever see him in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, is brilliant blue. Even now, after all this time. What this book is, the little hippo is called William, and what this book is a collection of all the other animals in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Not all of them, but quite a few of them, ranging in the collection for thousands of years, or across thousands of years. Some are 100 years old, some are 50 years old, some are 1,500 years old, and so on. Just delightful. It's a delightful little trifle. I don't have, when it comes to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, they have an incredible, mind-boggling collection, and there was a book about that collection. Floppy binding, deckled edges, French flaps, full-color reproductions of everything, and it was enormous. The book it came out about 40 years ago, and it was enormous. It had lots and lots of great prose about the artwork, and that's the only one I want. That's the only Metropolitan Museum of Art book that I want. I'll take little slivers like this, or if somebody did a collection on portraits in the Met, and I'll take things like that. But as far as a sweeping soup to nuts book on the art of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, that's what I want. And I'm not going to settle for anything else, so I'll either see it or I won't. The Brattle will provide. Then we have a trade paperback. I wish that I'd found this in a sturdier version. I found this last summer. This is by F.F. Bruce, and this is New Testament history. I'm perfectly willing to bring it into this room, even in a trade paperback that I know perfectly well is not going to stand up very well to abuse. I don't try to abuse my books, but I do end up abusing them. This is great. It's older. This is from 1950s, 1972, but it is great in terms of the type of thing that I really wish fundamentalist Christians who go to Bible school every week, I really wish they could read stuff like this. They won't. They can't, because Bruce does not start off on the assumption that everything said in the Bible is true or historically accurate. As well, he shouldn't, since none of it is true and almost none of it is historically accurate, like 1%. So if you have a gigantic Bible study book that is based on the assumption that everything in this book was inspired by a supernatural being, you're not going to get very far. You're going to turn away stuff that doesn't confirm that or that denies it. Errors, for instance, or contradictions. This is the real deal. It's not with Christianity studies are all through this room, but this is not with them. I actually know what's determining what's in this little bookcase and what isn't, but we're just going to forge ahead here to the last book, because we're doing these at around 15 minutes a piece. And this is by John Sparks and Tony Soper, and this is a book about owls. Their natural history, their folklore history, just the usual thing with owls. There's bringing food to the little ones. It's the usual thing with owls. It's very easy to do a book like this, but I love them anyway. I love them all anyway. I read them all anyway, and they all teach me something. No owl book like this so derivative that it doesn't teach me something. And there are a lot of owl books in this room as well. So you're getting a little preview of what you're going to be seeing as we continue on. And we are certainly going to continue on. It's now a command instead of just an audience favorite. So we're going to continue on. We've got a few more shelves on this little bookcase. We've got forever to do. It's a very little room. You can barely turn around in it. But it's got, I don't even know. I ought to count. I don't know how many books are in this room. Probably a couple of thousand. That have just been crammed into every space imaginable. There are no books on the floor, but the shelves are pretty busy. So we'll move on next time, and I'll see you all then. Thank you, BookTube.